Yes, folks, welcome to Beyond the Pitch on Kissway, and I am absolutely delighted to be joined here with the magnificent Ian Joy, football analyst from Fox Sports. Of course, you can see Ian doing the Bundesliga, and you can see Ian doing Champions League, multiple other things on Fox, and you can catch him on Twitter at Joy Paul Ian, and he has joined BTP now as a full-time member, and so I can see his pretty face on this video. So, as promised, the video platform was going to be something that we were going to get into more and more over the weeks. In the coming weeks, it's just going to get refined and improved, refined and improved. So stick with us. On today's show, we're going to discuss a number of different things. We're going to discuss Jurgen Klinsmann, horrific result for Jurgen Klinsmann off the back of the Mexico defeat. Many people calling for his head. Those who are defending him, finding themselves a lonely voice. We'll talk about
Yeah.
we'll talk about Gerard and Lampard now leaving LA and New York respectively. We'll talk about United being the best paying club in the world now, and what does that mean? And of course, we'll finish up with my compatriot here, who is American, Scottish American. Is he going to steal our Michael O'Neill to come over to Bonnie, Scotland, and and take the job? We'll see. He's doing a terrific job in Northern Ireland. Disappointing result for them today against Croatia, but it's a friendly. I don't think they'll be bothered too much.
Friendlies don't count, do they?
No. But first of all, mate, let me welcome you. Thanks very much for joining Beyond the Pitch.
Yeah, let me tell you something, Phil. It's been a real honour for me to join the team. Obviously, I've been a big fan of what you have been doing over the years and what you've built up there together with Anto and the crew. It's been pretty special. For me to have an opportunity to come on board and work together with you, and I know you have a terrific following that loves the beautiful game. They support great teams. They talk beautiful football. And they want to hear some good stuff, and hopefully I can bring that for them. And along the way, we'll have a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Genuinely honest to God, honoured to have you. Been a terrific admirer of yours Ian, for a long time, and brilliant to have you over as part of the team here. Hope everyone enjoys these videos. Like we said, these will improve as we get more and more familiar with the platform. And I get my hair gel red, and
Yeah,
Ian
look,
gets a
good stuff.
Botox red.
That's
And,
true, though. I mean, about the platform, it's so important that we do it right. I mean, what we want to do for the viewers, what we want to do
yep,
for the listeners around the world, is to make sure that they get the best possible product. We know there's a lot of competition out there now, so more importantly for us is to make sure that we give the best possible product out there to the people, and we'll make sure we get it right. We'll continue to put out consistent content and make sure we bring on consistent guests from all across the footballing world. And we know that we've got a product that people are going to love to watch and listen to, and will certainly entertain a lot of you.
absolutely. Just to back up what Ian was saying there, it's going to be a bit of fun as long as we're covering the football. We'll bring you
Yep.
guests, and there's going to be lots of other new things that are going to be brought to the BTP platform. New programming. There's going to be giveaways and all sorts of stuff. So we're excited about this new move on the video. We won't be abandoning the audio platform altogether, but
That's for
excited.
sure.
First of all, mate, Jurgen Klinsmann. Before I get into Jurgen Klinsmann, I want to
Here we
mention
go.
something because this comes up. Your background. You
Yep.
are, if any, for those of you who don't know you, you're a pure Scottish lad, but you're born in America, grew up in Scotland. Your dad played in San Diego.
Yep.
You were involved with the US national team, and so of course played in Germany. Played for Man United. Very very decorated football career. So well placed Ian to talk about the US Klinsmann. Let me qualify my position on Klinsmann, and then I want to hear what you have to say.
I'm interested to hear what you've got to offer on this subject because I've heard a lot today from everyone in the Fox
Okay,
studios. I'm intrigued to hear what you've got to say about this.
okay. I've been a vocal defender of Jurgen Klinsmann during his tenure at the US. He's not without fault. When he came in, said the pyramid was upside down. They needed to make improvements. I think he underestimated his remit a bit about having to completely overhaul the youth development system in this country, which is going to take enormous time, and it's almost a job in itself.
Right.
But what we see at the highest level here in our national team in the US is a football team that almost reminds me of our own, the Irish and the Scottish. Very limited, no technical ability. You've got Pulisic, that's a decent young, very good young player. But outside of
Yeah.
that, Ian, you're talking about football players that in the Gold Cup, if they're going to win the Gold Cup, Mexico have to have an off day. Mexico are the favourites. Mexico are by far and away the strongest team in
Yeah.
the continent. The US, I don't care if you bring in Carlo Ancelotti. I don't care if you bring in Jose Mourinho. There's nobody is capable of coming into the US and getting this team to compete consistently. Maybe on a one-off basis, but can compete consistently against the best teams in the world. Now, Klinsmann's
Yeah.
underperforming, I grant you. But should he be sacked?
First and foremost, the question should he be sacked is a very good question, and it's a question that's on the top of everybody's lips right now. Should he stay? Should he go? I personally think he should go because of what you've just mentioned there. That really caught my attention first and foremost was about the youth and what he was going to do with the youth development, how he was going to reconstruct the youth development. We know he's a German. We know he's come from a great footballing background in Germany where they really do teach the kids the right way to play the game. I think that he failed to do that first and foremost. In my opinion, that was his job, that was his focus, to make sure that the generations were coming through from the youth academies and club football all the way through to Major League Soccer, and then from Major League Soccer getting an opportunity with the US national team, and that didn't happen. Way back when you talked about me playing for the US youth national team, that was 20 years ago now. And I can tell you the system that they had going right then was absolutely fantastic. Yes, there was a lot of quality players missing out on an opportunity with the US national team, but I did see and consistently see top class players. And I thought, oh my word, this country, this nation is going to be great one day if they can get 11 of this type of player together in the same team. They're going to consistently compete with the best teams around the world because they will get experience in Europe. They'll travel to Europe. More players will get an opportunity at European clubs and they'll get that experience too. Jurgen Klinsmann came over and promised us he was going to reconstruct the whole youth system. It hasn't happened. Therefore, he's got to concentrate on the players that he has right now. He brought a lot of German players into the squad, which is okay with me because they're familiar with US background, US families, or US passports, or US citizens. So I fully support that. However, the team has to be consistently good, and I don't think they have been. The quality level, I hear all the time, this is the best generation of US soccer players, and I've had to bite my tongue so many times, in particular in my own office at Fox, when many of our pundits talk about the US national team. They think that this is the best generation of players that have been around there. Some of them disagree, and I strongly disagree. I think that the US national team and federation and the quality of their players is going backwards. And Jurgen Klinsmann is one of the
what did
reasons because of
change?
it.
Well, you said 20 years ago they had this exceptional group of players, and I would agree. I would say
Yeah.
if you go back 20 years ago, you look at that team of Ronaldo, you look at the team that they had back 20 years ago, beating Portugal, Brad McBride, Joe Max Moore.
Yeah.
What happened? Why hasn't the continued development been linear? Why is it? Why are we going backwards? It makes no sense.
Yeah, the development is the problem, right? Where are the players going? What's happening with the US youth national team players? Where are the quality players? Where are the Christian Pulisics of this world? Yes, we've got a star with Christian Pulisic, and people are claiming he's as good or if not better than Landon Donovan. That's yet to be seen. But I think that the players have just gone backwards. There's a lot of different attractions around the world right now. There's cell phones and internet and other sports and girls and whatever it may be catching players' attention. College degrees, people are focusing on other jobs, other careers, and soccer is missing out on so much talent. You cannot tell me with a country of 350 million almost people in this country that we can't find a group of 21 to 23 world-class players. I don't believe it. Think of all the Latin American players who are in this country. Think of all the European players who were born in this country. There's so many of them, Phil, that are missing out on an opportunity to play at the professional level and to play at the international level and really change this country. I'm really disappointed because 20 years ago, they were fantastic and I've seen a lot of talent. I don't see that anymore.
Okay, so you're saying these players are there. Well, a couple of questions springs to mind. Then, why aren't they getting recognition at youth level here? Where are these players? Is
Right.
it because the club soccer system in this country is failing? Is it because is it because the scouts at this level aren't looking beyond club soccer? What is the bottleneck here that's stopping these talented youngsters coming through? Because here's the thing, Ian, and this is the reality. the bright talents that we have in this US national team right now are players that are being developed abroad. And which begs the second question: has the MLS failed right now to do one of the primary things it was set up to do, and that's produce players for the US national team?
Well, we don't know if it was primarily set up for youth development for the U.S. national team,
No,
right?
no, not
Plus,
primarily, but that was one of the things it was set up
certainly
to do.
one of the things they're telling all of us. I think pretty much to make money was their key factor in all of this, and I understand that would be the reasoning behind it. But Major League Soccer plays a big role in youth development. Major League Soccer has to play a big role in it because so much money's been invested now in MLS. The players need to get an opportunity, and I feel like clubs are getting closer. They have youth academies
Yes.
in and around their professional clubs now, which had to happen and should have happened 10 years ago. Now there's money being invested there because they're starting to see younger players growing up in their youth development where they've got to put a claim on this player if he's come through their youth team to even select him through a draft. It's a complicated system. It really is a complicated system to have a player go through your whole youth system, pay for that player to be involved in your youth system, and then lose him to another Major League Soccer team, I think is just ridiculous. So the whole system, in my opinion, needs to be cleaned up. Rules need to be laid out properly that if we invest in this player, we get to keep that player for the future going forward. As far as the US national team, they've pulled out of many youth academies. They've pulled out the Bradenton in Florida. That went away very quickly after the U17s, Olympic qualifying and all the World Cup qualifying for the youth national teams. That disappeared very quickly because it cost a lot of money. And I just didn't see that commitment to the US youth national teams. Now I work quite closely with Brad Friedel, who's now involved in the US youth setup. And just a fantastic person to be involved in that because he's such a smart footballing brain. And I can tell you something, Phil. I know you know many goalkeepers. I don't know many smart goalkeepers, but Bradley is certainly a smart goalkeeper. He's got his head screwed on. He's a terrific man, and I think he'll be a great coach one day and potentially a candidate to replace a US national team coach and might even have his name thrown into the hat if Klinsmann goes this time around. But if you have quality, experienced players who've played in Europe, who've played in Major League Soccer, who know the development and what's needed, like him around the US Soccer Federation, you've got to listen to them. Give them their opportunity. At the moment, I'm seeing too much politics, too much crap that's going on around it, that we're seeing people with big voices, great experience, who have opinions, not having their voices heard. And that needs to change very quickly. Otherwise, we're going to miss out on some of the best players that America has.
All right, important point. You said 20 years ago we had a better team. Let's take a look at something. Last season, we were celebrating DeAndre Yedlin getting a loan move to Sunderland. We have a player in the Premier League. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Go back 10 years ago. How many players did the US have? They had Claudio Reyna, right?
Yeah.
They had Tim Howard, Brad Friedel,
Brian McBride, Eddie
Brian
Lewis,
McBride,
Clint
littered
Dempsey.
with players. Clint Dempsey, littered with players in the very top flight. By the way, Bob Bradley's not symbolic of anything. If it was, there's Scottish and Irish managers have managed in the Premier League, and it doesn't mean that it's an arrival on the international stage.
Yeah.
But why? It's not just that the MLS has improved so much where players don't need to go abroad anymore. Why have we now got a dearth of talent capable of going over to England? Because, and I'm not saying it's a be all and end all, Ian, but where are these players?
Well, the Premier League's got better, first and foremost. There's an opportunity there for players 20 years ago to go play there because they were looking at English players and potentially English-speaking players, and they grabbed a hold of the US's best. They had a lot of quality there from the US national team, and that was one of the reasons why the US Federation, and in particular the men's team, was fantastic at that stage because they had so much experience, so much quality playing at a high European level. I don't see it being so easy this time around because there isn't that quality there. Look at the US national team right now. The players who are there, who's starting up top, Josie Altidore is a name that comes to mind, who just simply failed in the Premier League. He deserved his opportunity because he played well in Holland and he scored a lot of goals. So he deserved his chance, but failed to grab that chance. When there's $5 million waiting for you back in Major League Soccer in Toronto FC, why wouldn't he want to come back and take that money and enjoy the rest of his career with an easier lifestyle than he would have in the Premier League or in Europe, fighting for a place, trying to improve, trying to get better? And I'm not saying he's a bad player. because he certainly isn't. He's a good goal scorer. He's a quality player in Major League Soccer. But in the Premier League, would he be a top player? The answer's no, because he's proven that he's not.
Look, every time he started up front, I think Gus Poyet was playing him, and Gus Poyet, every time Josie was playing, because he was out of options, he looked like he just jumped in the back of Ted Bundy's Uber, right? He's like, yeah, hold on a minute there, one lad up there doesn't look too comfortable. When he was young, 17, he looked phenomenal. And,
Great.
Looked a great young talent, but fulfilling promise is a very difficult thing for young players to do. We know that making that jump is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So Josie wasn't able to fulfill that talent. He's a big, strong boy. Physique-wise, I thought he'd make it. But so let me go back to where I started from. Yes or no? Do you sack Klinsmann?
I think you do. I don't see where the US national team grows with Jurgen Klinsmann now. It looks like he might have lost a lot of the respect from the players. They gave up in that game against Costa Rica. They really gave up. And I put a tweet out before the game saying that I've heard enough of the tactics, the 4-4-2, the 3-5-2, from a lot of apparent US men's national team experts in the game who I keep seeing on social media and listening to on podcasts or on soccer shows in the United States. And I'm fed up with it. I think it's a lot of crap. So I put out a tweet saying that it's a lot about passion, determination, skill, quality. Forget your 3-4-2 and whatever numbers you need to throw in there. They could have played 5-5-5. They could have played 16 players and still lost that game in Costa Rica because that's how bad they were. I think he's lost a lot of those players. They've lost the heart, and that really disappoints me because every time you pull on that badge, you should give 110%, and I don't think we've seen that from the majority of the team against Costa Rica.
I would agree with you in that I think he's lost the players. In a country like the US that demands their players play with 100% commitment regardless of who the manager is. But I do get the feeling that they don't particularly like him. I remember talking to Matt Beasler last year whenever they were down prior to the Copa America, I think it was, or it was a friendly in Chile. And the MLS hadn't started yet, but he was saying about how difficult the training was. It was non-stop sprint. Players will do that for you if you're winning and if you're successful, but as soon as things start going wrong, little things like that matter, because we all know no footballer, very few anyway, loves to train physically, work hard, putting in the sprints, putting in all the ugly work. We all want to play with the ball, we all want to do that, but as soon as things start going wrong, those disciplinarians, same with Van Gaal, once players sniff they can get you out, you're finished. And I just think, looking at Klinsmann, I think he's finished. But what I would say, Ian, just to finish up this segment, I don't think there's any quick fix for the US. I don't think anybody's coming in here and saying,
all right, well let me put this to you then, Phil. Who replaces him? If they get rid of Jurgen Klinsmann now, who is the top candidate in your eyes that would replace him?
Well, this is a good question, because the guy that's fishing for the job is Bruce Arena. Now, Bruce Arena, and I think we're all comfortable in saying the Galaxy would love to get rid of Bruce Arena.
Right.
Bruce Arena wants the job. Bruce Arena is tactically inept, right? And I think in the MLS, it's no longer good enough. It's no longer enough just to have a good team. Now you have to have some tactical aptitude. Now you have to be able to have some, be a bit tactically adept. And I don't think he is. I think he's someone that has his own problems in the dressing room, which we can highlight. Robbie Keane is what we're being told by exceptional sources at the Galaxy. He's looking into the Middle East to get a move away. Really, really unhappy with how things are going inside the Galaxy. Fine, managers have that, but I think it would be a massive step back if the US went and gave the job to Bruce Arena.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to bring back a coach who's already been there and had reasonable success with the national team in the first place. He had 2 World Cups under his belt, did well in one of them, not so well in the other one. But also, look at his career. He's done well with LA Galaxy. He started to slow down in Major League Soccer. He's getting a little bit older now, and I'm pretty sure that LA Galaxy would be happy to move on with a different style and a different type of coach with what they're trying to build at that club. And I know the club is very well run. but take nothing away from Bruce Arena. What a career he's had as a coach, as a head coach. I know he's well respected in the dressing room. Maybe not so much by some of the guys who have just been departed the club, right? With Steven Gerrard recently announced that he's going, and also Robbie Keane's his disagreement with Bruce Arena and how good he actually was on the training ground and tactically. But I think he's been one of the best man managers in Major League Soccer, in particular with the American players. They talk very highly of him. I never played for him. I played against his teams, and obviously I played with his son in the US youth national team, and he was a great lad, Kenny Arena. But Bruce coming back to the US national team is an absolute no-go for me. It might be a quick fix, but I don't think that he's a long-term future for US national team. We need to see a US national team coach come in with a big future. We need to see a smart US coach.
Does he have to understand the MLS?
Yes, I do think so. I think he has to understand the MLS. You can bring in someone, let's just say you bring in Pep Guardiola, and it's great because he's one of the best. And I'm sure he would take his time to go through every single player and every single avenue to get the best quality and the best product on that field and would improve. But we don't have that opportunity at the US national team. They need to see a quick response because they could get eliminated from World Cup qualifying. It's highly unlikely, but they could get eliminated if they don't get their act together. So whoever comes in has to have the respect immediately from the team. He has to have a smart brain, and he has to be able to know exactly what he wants these players to do. Because first and foremost, when you look at this squad, they're not good enough. They are just not good enough. The quality's gone down, the level's gone down, the players have no confidence, so you're not getting the best of these players, especially under Jurgen. And I knew it today. I made a bet with my mate Stu Holden on the show today, and I said, I think that Costa Rica are going to win this game. And he said, no chance, because the US comes good when their back's against the wall. And my thought to him was that they just don't have that class in the squad. They don't have the heart. They don't have the passion. They don't have the ability and skill level. When you look at the rest of CONCACAF now, all getting better.
It's a really important point because there is a lot of misunderstanding amongst the US about where they actually stand. And it's not just in comparison to Mexico. Look, Jamaica's getting better. Guatemala, these teams are improving, and so I don't know. I think that especially going away to these places, going away to like Guatemala, right? Nightmare pitch, not the best atmosphere. It's hostile, different characteristics required. It's not where you go and play total football. You have to dig in and get a result. So I with the 100%. All right, move on. We have had the news Steven Gerrard's going back to England. Not a surprise to anybody that's known about what's going on with Steven Gerrard the last 6-7 months. He's wanted out for quite a while. Frank Lampard also announced. That was a surprise to me, maybe not a surprise to you. But after a difficult start, he settled in after that 7-0, really. He came good in, and now you may have a different view of this, obviously, but those are big DPs. We've mentioned that Robbie Keane could possibly leave and wants to leave. Do the MLS look at these DPs and say, look, Steven Gerrard was 36, Lampard was 36, Robbie Keane was a good signing because he was still at a decent age. But could you really say Gerrard and Lampard have been value for money?
It's very difficult. I mean, the statistics don't lie when it comes to Frank Lampard. When he played well. And pretty much majority of the time he played and had an assist or had a goal. I think he had 15 goals and 31 appearances in his time there. He was there for a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer than that after what happened with Manchester City, keeping him for that 6 months and delay of arrival in New York City. I had a great chance to work with Frank Lampard, obviously, with the job that I do at NYCFC, and got to watch him closely in the training ground and on the field, and I thought he was fantastic. I'm actually surprised to see, after the performances he's put in on this season, especially after his injury start to the season, that he is going. But injuries were probably telling us that it's that time in his career. You can't rely on him. It's a lot of money to invest in a player like that. He's certainly getting up there in age. Regardless of the goals, you can go spend that money and bring in better quality. Steven Gerrard, the same, 10 assists this season for LA Galaxy, was quite impressive. But I don't think we've seen the best Stevie G. I think he had problems off the field with his family settling in LA and potentially moved back quite early after he arrived, which is a real disappointment for anyone who moves across the pond.
Right.
I don't think we've seen the best of Steven Gerrard, and I think you could clearly see that his heart wasn't 100% in the project at LA Galaxy, even though we still seen Steven Gerrard in Major League Soccer, which is fantastic to see. Sold a lot of jerseys. He was at LA Galaxy for a number of years. They didn't win a title while he was there, but he played in Major League Soccer, and that's a great achievement. To your question, it's got to change. I don't like the fact that a lot of this money's been spent on DPs coming in at 35, 36 years old. It just doesn't work out for me. They are big names. They'll sell a lot of jerseys. Yes, it's a marketing stunt, and it works because they make a lot of money from it. But the product on the field, unless you're signing a Giovinco or a Robbie Keane, who are still pretty close to their prime and producing a great product on the field, it's not really worth it, in my opinion. I'd rather spend money in the youth development. I'd rather go and spend money on a player who's 23, 24 years old that you could potentially sell in the future, bring them to Major League Soccer, let them play, rather than investing that money into a name like Andrea Pirlo, who's another great example. It's great to see him play in Major League Soccer, and he's got a great name on the back of the jersey, but it's not the same Andrea Pirlo. Why are we spending so much money on him?
Which, on that question then, do LAFC spend the money on Humpty Dumpty on Wayne Rooney and bring him over the big potato head?
What do you think? Do you think?
But here, alright. So unless you're Marlboro Lights, it's not like Rooney's going to be someone that's going to bring in tons of sponsorship money. You know, right. It's not like Rooney's going to be doing the catwalk anytime soon. You know, that big potato head and walking down, smokes. You know, this is maybe a sunblock on a Marlboro Light commercial or something.
Yeah, you might get a movie. You never know.
But
Shrek 4.
Possibly. I am convinced if he did Shrek, no one would notice any difference. Other than
but at his age though, Phil, and I know
seriously,
you're close to United, his age is a good age to bring a player like that over, and what a name.
Yeah, but Rooney's not. Rooney's biological clock is not 30. Rooney now. I've been watching him closely and for a long time. Rooney hasn't been world class since he was 24. He had a good period back 2008 when United won the Champions League. That's 8 years ago. 2008, 8 years ago. So Rooney is he's 31, and so he hasn't been anywhere close to world class for a long time, consistently well off the pace.
Yeah.
So essentially what you're saying is a guy that is all reputation, a guy that has a problem with fitness, a guy that has a problem with discipline. And when you listen to Ferguson, you know Ferguson got a bit personal with him, but he had him nailed on when he said, I told England not to rest him before the 2010 World Cup, South Africa, right. 2010. Because he needs 3 or 4 games to back in the swing of things. This is why I'm playing. Yeah. Coming off the bench is going to be a nightmare for Rooney. Rooney needs to be playing week in, week out to find his form.
To get the best of him.
Putting Rooney in LA, right, with all the temptations, right? I mean, you might as well stick him in Vegas right next to that chicken ranch, right? I mean, you know what the online's going to be like, right? Rooney, from what I've been told.
So you don't think that he would score goals if he came to Major League Soccer? You don't think that he could potentially?
Bradley Wright Phillips score goals. Bradley Wright Phillips scores goals. It's not a question. You're going to have to pay Rooney 200 G's a week, right? And you're not going to get a committed Wayne Rooney. It's going to be good for Colin and all that there, but maybe. And Jovan Karofsky at the Galaxy is a very, very smart man. Knows things at Manchester United inside out. Has enormous respect for Rooney. Has enormous respect for Manchester United Football Club. And as a football man, played the game. He'll make the right decision. If it was me, I wouldn't touch him. And let me make this qualification. He's a really nice fella, a really down-to-earth guy. I'd love to see him come back and find his form, but I just think with Rooney, you're looking at a player that's got two problems. He's burnt out because
Right.
at 17 he was essentially playing week in, week out. Um, and I don't know if Wayne Rooney coming out the MLS, you'll ever see the Rooney that you saw at United. Even
Right.
glimpses of it. And
You just
so,
don't see it anymore, yeah.
no, he's gone. And so for me, 200 grand a week on Wayne Rooney, I think you can spend it better elsewhere.
How's it looking at his United career right now? And I know you put out a recent post that broke news about Wayne Rooney and his difficulties at United under Mourinho. How is it looking for him now?
Well, United want him out. Mourinho want him out. Look, Mourinho played a long game. Mourinho knew coming into Manchester United that he was a problem. A lot of George Mendes clients in that dressing room gave
Yeah.
Mourinho the scoop of what was going on inside that place. The problem with Rooney is he's got so many friends in the English media. Not the sort of player you want to have sitting about the dressing room disillusioned because he leaks. And Mourinho is, as we've seen with players at Real Madrid, we've seen with players at Chelsea, demands complete loyalty, doesn't want teams leaked or anything like that. You have
Yeah.
a massive problem with that at United, and Rooney's popular amongst players. So Mourinho doesn't. If you kick him out now, and you're not losing anything significantly from a football perspective, so it's not like he has to be replaced because we lose so much. Football wise, he's not really contributing. Um, the reason why he's still at United is a long story, but he's massively popular amongst sponsors. And
Yeah.
so Asian sponsors that were coming to United when they hadn't got Pogba, when they hadn't got Ibrahimovic, he was the guy
He
that they
was a
were
main
asking
man.
for. Yes.
Yep.
Now that they've replaced, now they've got these other players that are going to be front page for sponsors. The desire to hold on to him's not there. I think if he got a way out, see, here's the thing: if they prefer to sell him to China, because the Chinese will pay a transfer fee.
Yeah. Got big.
MLS won't pay it. If they can get him out in January, Mourinho would love it. And Mourinho has complete, unequivocal support from United board that he didn't have at Chelsea when it comes to personnel. That's a key difference, by the way, between what is
Yeah.
happening at United and what's happening at Chelsea. Mourinho has complete support. So I think if they find an option to get him out in January, he's gone.
Isn't it crazy that we're talking about China being a potential
Yeah.
place where Wayne Rooney can end up and the amount of money that's involved in China now? We were talking about this at the Fox Studios before one of our shows. All the money that's there, some of the players that are there. The Italian coach coming out and saying that Giovinco wasn't going to be involved in the Italian national team as long as he was playing in Major League Soccer. What about some of the players that are playing in China in the prime of their career?
Pelé.
Pele's the one that comes to mind
Yeah.
for me as well. What a player he was in the Premier League. He was scoring goals. He was fun to watch, and then just disappeared to China.
Mate, for 400 grand a week, I play against ISIS every week. Right? So I wouldn't care. I'm so most of them boys, I'm telling you, everything has its price, right? And also, what them lads are getting in China, and by the way, the money that the Chinese are pouring into the youth development system as well,
Right.
now, that's going
Right.
to pay dividends because the Chinese president has mandated that these people and told them we encouraged them to buy football clubs. They've invested enormous amounts of money. I've talked to some coaches that are over there working. They're saying that the money that
Yeah.
the Chinese have spent, and the Chinese don't have what we have in this country. They don't have basketball to compete with as a national sport. They don't have football to compete with a national sport,
Right.
or hockey or any. So
I have heard it. I've heard they've tried to put a lot of money in to try and get some of the best coaches over to China. I know a lot of the German coaches were rumored to be going over there, and Ruud, a friend of mine, I actually read a post of his that he put out that him, Van Basten, and Rijkaard were going over to China to do a soccer academy because they were getting paid loads of money to go there. And listen, I know there's going to probably be a lot of Asian listeners out there. It's great to see because I want to see
Yes,
the game
absolutely.
growing all across the world, and I love nothing more than watching national teams grow and get better and the competition being better. In particular, we're watching it right here close to us in CONCACAF region where these nations around the United States and Mexico are just improving. Same thing's happening in Asia. A lot of money, a lot of money. It's all been invested in these kids, and it's all been invested in the national teams and domestic leagues, and eventually we'll see a final product from all that. They will improve. They'll all get better.
I completely agree. I think what we will see a final product from that. It's not going to be unrealized potential.
Yeah.
The Asians are exceptional at investing in stuff, making it better, and giving you a finished product. The Chinese will it may take 20 years, maybe take 15, but they'll get it right. If you think about the 2002 European Championships, I think it was the European Championships or World Cup, I can't remember.
Well,
Germany,
it was, yeah.
when
Go ahead.
Germany had a nightmare tournament, was it the European Championships or was it the World Cup?
2002 was in Japan. That was the World Cup.
The Germans overhauled their system then. We're seeing the dividends of that now. Now, 2002 doesn't seem that long ago, right?
Right.
Where you're thinking, that's relatively recent. That's 14 years ago,
Right.
15. So, and now you're seeing the dividends. That
The
14, 15
Americans
years
were
goes in
competing with the
fast.
German national team in
Yes,
2002. That tells you how long ago it was.
but
Feels like yesterday, but it was a long time ago.
that 14, 15 years goes in fast. And
Yeah,
if
it
you
does.
implement the right changes, but what people don't understand, Ian, is that people say, well, why don't we just copy the German system? You
Right.
must factor in the cultural aspects when you're developing a youth system.
Yeah.
You can't just say I'm taking this and copying it, because you have to factor in American cultural influences, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And we have a big problem here in making youth football holistic, because whether we like it or not, youth football in this country, especially at the elite level, is a bunch of Caucasian parents that have a bit of dosh, that want to keep their kids separate, that want to keep a little elite league for
Right.
their Jaden, Caden, Braden, Hayden, Maiden, whatever their names are, right? So that they can all play and they all score goals, and they don't want. This is just the reality of it, and we have some
Listen,
exceptional youth coaches here.
I
It's
agree.
not all their
I
fault.
agree. No, 100%. The one thing you did touch upon there about the German system and making it almost religious in many ways for these kids. I had the opportunity to go over there when I was 21 and play for 5, almost 6 years, and watch through Hamburg's youth system produce some of the best young players
Yes.
and how they run their system. Every single player was in the same house. There was 25, 30 players who weren't from Hamburg. They all stayed in the same house. They all had their own bedrooms. It was like a little hostel, and they were taken care of first class. Food, service, everything they needed. Then they went to school. Then when they came back, they trained again. There was 2 training sessions every day, and these kids just learned to play the system religiously. But not only did they learn to play the game beautifully, they learned to love the game
Yep.
beautifully. And that's, I think, the biggest difference between what we're experiencing here in the United States or what you're going to see the Asian culture, or even in Australia, or even Qatar, or wherever it may be. You're going to see a lot of money invested in it, but they don't live and breathe the game. And that's where you benefited from, where I benefited from growing up in Europe. We lived and breathed it. Our friends religiously supported their team. They followed their team. Their fathers spent loads of money to go and watch their team or give their kids the best jerseys every Christmas and birthday. That doesn't happen here. There's so much competition with different sports and other interests for these kids to get involved in nowadays that we're missing out on some terrific talent, and I think it's a big shame. Where the Germans and the Spanish in particular are also not far away from that, and the Italians, I would imagine, are starting to get better at it as well. England are not far away either. They're also investing a lot of money in there. They're trying to breed these kids, put them into religious academies, teach them the right way so that they know a system. When they get into a first team, they're ready to go, and when they get into that first team, they're ready for a national team. It's just a conveyor belt of talent in these countries.
Well, let me ask you the last point on that before we move on. One of the focuses that we have here on youth development at under 16, 17 or 15, 14, whatever, is collecting trophies for the team. The team has to win this competition, this competition, this competition. But
Right.
if you look at youth academies throughout Europe, the focus is on individual development, saying, look, I don't care if we don't win the league at the under 14 level. I don't care if our academy doesn't win the league under 15 level. If we can get 3 or 4 players out of this under 14 team up to the next level, and so
Yep.
on and so on, that's what it's all about. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment. It was always about that next step. When is he ready to take that next step? When is he good enough to take the next step? Will he make the next step? Will he have to go down a step? Will he not make it at all? It happens at every single level in a lot of these countries, in the majority of European countries, and it's getting more and more difficult to get your opportunity in first teams because of investment from foreigners or big owners of these football clubs. They're buying the best players from abroad. They're not raising their domestic young talent, so they're wasting a lot of money. I mean, Manchester City is a great example of it.
Yep.
And Man United spent a lot of money this year, so it's another great example of it. Premier League's a great example of it. All these teams are big owners, lots of money. Where is the young English or British talent, or even the home islands talent that used to be there? The players are still there, the young kids are still there, they're still playing the game, but they're not getting their opportunity to come through. You have to be exceptional to get your chance, or you have to be very lucky to get your opportunity at these clubs nowadays.
Chelsea, I think, what have they won? The Youth Cup last 4 years in a row.
Right.
They've got more dodgy loans than myself, so all about it, mate. Swiftly moving on. Quickly,
Get off the
quick assessment on this point. Manchester United are now the best paying club in the world. Not going to spend too long talking about this, but
Yeah.
here's why that hidden headline is relevant. United have a problem right now in that if they're now competing for the best players in the world, something they haven't done in a long time. Now imagine you're exceptional. Imagine you're Antoine Griezmann. You're like, okay, so I've got Barcelona, I've got Real Madrid, I've got Juventus. Barcelona offer me a wonderful chance of winning the European Cup and La Liga. Real Madrid offer me a wonderful chance of winning the Champions League in Europe, and La Liga. Bayern Munich, same. Juventus, same. Man United offer me the most money.
Yeah.
Once you start using that as your selling point, then that's whenever you start having a dressing room where maybe you're questioning commitment. Because City saw this with the likes of Yaya Toure. I'm not getting the birthday cake, I want out.
Yeah.
Now, Yaya Toure didn't grow up with City posters on the wall. Wasn't one of these moves that, oh my god, I'm so delighted to be here. Not naive to say that you don't have to pay for players and you can sell this all on the club's history and prestige. But once you start giving players the reason to sign for your club is because you pay them the most, and not what you saw under Ferguson's era, you're not getting paid the most, but you've got a great chance of winning trophies. And if you're a footballer that wants to collect a wage, the biggest wage, which I'm sure they all do, but that's the biggest priority over collecting trophies.
Well, the game's different, Phil. The game's completely different from what it was when we grew up watching the game, from what the generation was under Ferguson.
So you don't think? Do you think this is a problem? As an ex-player
It's a big
yourself,
problem.
do you think it's a problem? It is a big problem.
Yeah, I think money in football is a big problem. With players, their attention's being grabbed with money. We live in a different generation where money is everything. You have to be the highest earner, or the biggest earning team, or whatever. Manchester United as a club, as an example, is such a crazy club, putting their club on the market and making so much money from it, having an American owner. I mean, there's so many things that go into why a club is the highest paying club, or why they buy the most expensive players. Real Madrid are another team that are guilty of that. They want to have the best players. They want to have the best team. They want to win championships. They want to make a lot of money. These are businesses now. It's no longer just about the badge. It's no longer just about the shirt. It is for the fans, because we all support the team for a reason. We want to see the best players and we want to see our team be successful. And growing up watching some of these amazing teams in the Premier League, and I was in the UK growing up, it was just phenomenal to see the passion from all of these players. And a lot of them were homegrown players or came through the academy from other European countries, but really were raised in that country and got the opportunity to really know what that club meant. I don't see it anymore. I don't feel it anymore. It frustrates me watching a lot of these teams because I don't see that passion for the badge. And that disappoints me. And one of the reasons because of that is because they're all making so much money now. Their interest for the love of the game and even winning trophies is now disappearing.
All right, that's a good point. To finish up on this,
Yep.
Guardiola's success at Barcelona, Guardiola's success at Bayern Munich was built around a core group of academy players that identify with the club. They would go through a brick wall for a club that were desperate to play there and nowhere else. He doesn't have that at City.
No.
He doesn't have a core group of exceptional players.
He didn't have it at Bayern Munich.
Come on, you're nuts. He had Muller, he had Philip Lahm, he had Alaba. It
They all didn't buy into his
come on, mate.
product. They all didn't buy into Pep Guardiola and changing that
No, no,
club. I mean,
but
from up above, it didn't quite happen. Yeah, they were good. They were world class. I mean, it was
But didn't he have a
fantastic to
core
see
group
that
of
team.
young
But
players? But he had a core group of academy players there that were
yeah,
desperate to play for a football club. That you weren't going to have to worry we're going to put on a transfer request. You weren't going to have to worry about them wanting out at the first sign of trouble. Do these players? He doesn't have that at City, and
no.
he's what does he got? One winning. I know they're sitting second in the league. Looking at what you're seeing under Guardiola at City,
Mm.
do you feel that this is it's not a question of whether he's an exceptional coach, but do you feel he's going to bring the type of success to City that he saw at Barcelona and Bayern Munich?
Well, Bayern Munich domestically was quite successful because he managed to change the team to play a particular way, and obviously got a chance to watch that closely. With Barcelona, it's a completely different story. I mean, they were really raised that way. These kids came through their academy to play that way, and he was a part of it all as a player and then as a coach, and really changed the whole philosophy and idea for a lot of these players for the future. And what we're seeing now from Barcelona is really what we already learned from Pep Guardiola back in the day. I don't think it's possible to do that at Manchester City unless he has the ability to buy a squad of his own players. If he has that chance to buy his own players and buy a lot of them, then he has a chance. But it takes time. He's just inherited all of these players because they're all on massive contracts. A lot of them can't be sold because they command a high salary, or they're worth so much money they have to get the recoup of the transfer fee. So they can't get rid of a lot of these players. He's stuck with a lot of them. So he's been really limited with what he's had to work with. I think over time, Pep Guardiola can be really successful with Manchester City, but I don't think he'll be able to get the team that he really wants. Well, what's the end goal for Pep Guardiola, Phil? He goes to Manchester City, he went to Bayern Munich, went to Manchester City, and for what reason? Is he there for 10 years? Is he there to try and produce a successful football club that will win championship after championship after championship? Or is he there for 3 or 4 years to try and win a European trophy and get out of there? What's the end goal? I don't know what the target is for Manchester City, and I really have to say this. I haven't seen a target for Manchester City for a long time. All I see is money being spent, massive players coming in, big stars coming into the club, but the product at the end of the day is good in the Premier League, can challenge for the title, sometimes win it, not good enough for Europe.
For Guardiola to be a success at City, he has to do something that hasn't been done. He has to do something that Pellegrini didn't do. He has to do something that Mancini didn't do. So he has to win the European Cup. If
Has to.
he finishes a tenure at City without winning the European Cup, I don't
Right.
care what anybody else says. Because when you talk about, oh, he changed Bayern Munich the way they played. He evolved the football club, and you can't just say he wasn't successful because he didn't do what Jupp Heynckes did. At City, it's a very, very clear.
Right.
It's a very, very clear objective. Champions League. Without the Champions League, he has failed. And if I was City, if Guardiola can't bring you a Champions League, I'd be really, really concerned. All right. Lastly,
Let me ask you this before you move on, Phil.
yes,
Say he goes 3 Premier League campaigns, doesn't win the Premier League, but in his final year wins the Champions League. Consider that a success?
I would, because I don't
Yeah, and it's
think.
disappointing to say that, right? Because they could finish 4th or 5th or 3rd or 4th just to make sure they're in the Champions League. But then it's not really considered a success, really, if you're not winning domestically and cleaning up all across Europe, right?
Here's the problem with City. City have no history of continued success, so there's nothing to be judged by. I know
That's
it's
your
a
personal
bit of a
opinion
take.
or
No, no,
illness?
but it's fact, right? So Guardiola goes 5, 6 games without a win. No big deal. When Guardiola was hired, the headline was, "What are Man United going to do now?" It wasn't, "Oh my God, Guardiola's coming at Man City." It was all about how United going to respond. Manchester United are judged against Ferguson. They're judged against Busby Babes. They're judged against this glorious history where they're expected to go back to this. City are judged against, it's all recent. So it's very difficult to say, is Guardiola going to restore City back to what? Back to a team that's holding on for a draw to get relegated the League One, and it's so there's
Unbelievable.
the what City are being judged by. City fans can attack me for all I want. The bottom line is City have no history to be held to accountable to where you can say if City are falling below a certain standard, then it's a catastrophe. Everything's a plus at City. Guardiola comes in and brings a European Cup. Even if they go out if they go out in the quarterfinals next this year, be considered, well, it's not bad, right? If
Yeah.
United qualify for the Champions League next season and go out in the quarterfinals, it'd be considered a disappointment. So, City, if Guardiola is successful for 3-4 years, what he's going to leave behind him is going to be a nightmare, because soon City will be judged against that, and
Right.
now that's going to be really difficult to follow. Not
Yeah.
that,
He's not there for the long term.
of
He's
course,
he's there to win
that's over.
quick
No
success.
manager's going to do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
I
All
don't.
right, let me ask you something now, and
Go
this is
ahead.
something that really brought to my attention recently with international football going on over the last 5 or 6 days.
Yep.
And I did a show with the Scotland game against England, was really disappointed, and the question mark came up with Gordon Strachan and his job and his
Yeah.
future. And only yesterday, just yesterday, and I'm bringing a straight one to you, Michael O'Neill was linked with a job. They said that Gordon Strachan was going to be relieved of his duties, and if that was to happen, the man they were going after was Northern Ireland's Michael O'Neill. Thoughts?
I think Michael O'Neill is. Bear in mind, when he took a Northern Ireland job, he didn't win a game in 11, his first 11. He's about to be sacked. I think you have to be cautious. When you look at what Laurie Sanchez did at Northern Ireland, very, very successful, gets a job at
Right.
Fulham, has never been successful again. I think it's a very unique set of circumstances that has contributed to Michael O'Neill's success at Northern Ireland. Scotland, on the other hand, you know, I don't know if he'd be successful in Scotland, but the problem for Strachan is Michael O'Neill's making his job impossible, because the
Right.
Scottish FA are looking at him saying, well, how is he able to get Northern Ireland to a World Cup or the European Championships when arguably you've got better players and you can't get Scotland to a major tournament? This is
Well, why
unacceptable.
is that happening, Phil? Why is he able to get Northern Ireland with the squad of players that they've got to a major tournament for the first time, and then for the first time in a long time, and then have success? Because it was considered a real success for the nation, right?
It was absolutely. I mean, it's an incredibly limited team. So
Right.
it's unique. So you get a bit of luck with the draw, you get a bit of confidence, you get a bit of luck with injuries, but it comes back to what we were saying about all these players have to buy in to what you're doing. I think today, with the generation, the young generation, you have to have a young manager.
Yeah.
Once you start getting even into the 50s, the Mourinho Ancelotti age, the young generation today is so different from any previous generation. When we were 19, 20, we were comparable to the previous generation. 19, 20 today, if you
Yeah.
don't understand those kids and what makes them tick, and the fact that you can't bollock kids, you can't
Right.
take 19, 20-year-olds and motivate them by giving them a bollock.
That
It just
trash dressing rooms and kick
yeah,
things.
doesn't work, right? These
No.
kids are different. These kids are brought up different.
Yeah.
They're and so I think it's really important that you have a young manager that understands psychologically how to motivate these kids, how to connect with them, and get the best out of them. Scotland, here's my opinion of Scotland. Scotland's players are too good to be really bad, but not good enough to be good, right? So they're almost Northern Ireland players know they're limited, right? They
Right.
know that individually there's no superstars. So, but Scotland have a couple of tasty players. Young Oliver Burke's a good player.
Mm,
Robertson's a good player. Lee Griffiths is a good player,
mm.
and so they're almost a bit like the Republic in that the Republic are better individually than Northern Ireland. Not bad enough to say to themselves, we're crap here, and if we don't play together as a really difficult unit and be hard to beat and do all the things that a limited team does,
Mm.
then we're going to get beat and beat bad. Northern Ireland go out well organised, hard to beat, and then hope that Lafferty or someone on the other end nicks a goal for them.
Yeah.
Scotland, Strachan is expecting a bit more of his players. It's saying, go and impose yourself in a game. You're better than that, but it never works out that way.
He's just too old school.
I think he's a bit like Wenger in that he's caught between two eras.
Yeah.
So he recognises that young players are different, that you have to coach them differently, but he's from an era of. You look at what the way Strachan grew up. Strachan grew up in that Leeds team. He grew up in
Yeah.
that United team. Hard Wilkinson. He grew up with Ferguson at Aberdeen. Grew up with Ferguson at
Yeah.
United. Hard, old school.
Mhm.
Ferguson would find it very difficult today as that generation changed with young
It's
players who
almost
just don't
like
connect.
installing the fear factor in your
Yeah.
players to play well.
But, and see, at club level, at an international level, when we were young, to play for your international team was the ultimate honor, right?
Yeah.
If you were desperate to pull that shirt on. And this is what happens. You see this with United with Luke Shaw, young player, kind of wee knock boss. I don't feel 100%. Now, when we were young, Ian, you'd have
Yeah.
had to break our legs to get us off. You were
Exactly.
desperate to play. These
Yeah.
kids aren't desperate to play anymore. These kids are like, first of all, it used to be, if to get any taste of continental football, if you weren't playing for one of the top teams, and even then it was limited, this was the only way of doing it. Now
Yeah.
these players are retiring from international football younger. It doesn't mean the same, and national identity's been eroded a bit, and
Mhm.
so growing up as a young Scots are proud to be Scottish means a lot. Just doesn't mean the same anymore, and so I don't know. I think it's a number of different factors, and Scotland have the same problem that the US have. You can bring in an exceptional coach, and all you're really going to improve, make someone harder to beat. There's going to pull off the odd shock, but you
Yeah.
put in a tournament where quality shows, where quality matters, where ultimately quality is going to find you out,
Yeah.
then the coach can only do so much. So for me,
Yeah, it's only so much, right?
yeah,
Same with the US that we were talking about
right,
earlier on. There's only so
exactly.
much you can do it. But it does make it quite interesting, though, Phil, the fact that he played in Scotland, still has a house in
Yeah,
Scotland. Obviously, the
it
Scottish
helps.
fans loved him as a player. He was a
Yeah,
fantastic player in his time as well. Really, really interested.
and Scotland will pay him
That's
more.
yeah,
I do think this will be. I think that this will be his last 2 years at Northern Ireland. But
yeah,
I do wonder if he got a good offer, would he say to himself, "It's time to cash in"? Because all it takes is a couple of bad results with Northern Ireland to the
for sure.
magic dust to wear off to go. You missed the boat, mate. You know.
Yeah.
What's striking on at Scotland?
Oh, I can't even imagine what he's on. I can't imagine it's a luxurious job as far as salary goes, that's for sure. But Strachan, he's been there for a while now, right? So he's been pretty comfortable in that position. I don't see much of a development. But then again, as you just touched upon it there, he doesn't have much to work with.
How would you
There's
feel
a
about
few
it?
exec players.
With Michael O'Neill, would you be happy as a Scotsman to see Michael O'Neill in that job?
I like the fact that he's done a great job with Northern Ireland. I'm not so sure that he could be able to replicate that job elsewhere. And
Bertie Vogts needs a job, man.
yeah, you're right. I think we've been down that road many times before with Scotland trying to appoint the wrong managers. My biggest issue is that if Walter Smith can't get this team playing well with passion and with a bit of like love for
Walter
the nation.
Smith? You'd give it to Walter
Well,
Smith?
no, he tried, right, and
Oh,
it didn't
yeah.
work out. And then you go to Gordon Strachan, who's probably a bit better tactically and in the way he organises, he's a bit more of a man manager, and that doesn't work out. Where do you go next? I don't see where you would go. You'd have to go to someone who's had success with a smaller nation and has some sort of love for the country. So he seems like the perfect fit for me. I don't know where else Scotland could potentially go. I really don't. So it's an interesting one.
But Strachan, for me, will always be associated with Media Bratislava. When they hit Celtic for 5.
And his great interviews after games. I mean, he was just the best person to interview. I had to watch. I started watching it because I was doing my preparation for England Scotland, and of course, his name came up in a pre-match conference. So I started watching conference after conference on YouTube, and I ended up going down and down and down the list, listening to him just slaughter people asking questions prior to games and post games. I think he's just a great interviewer. He's just brilliant.
What
He's
was
a
it?
great guy.
What was it? Can I have a word, Gordon? Super fragilistic expialidocious. He's typical
Brilliant.
Scottish wit. Listen, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thanks very much for tuning in to the first one of these. Myself and Ian will be doing these regularly. If you've got any topics you want us to cover, drop us a tweet, myself or Ian. Drop me a tweet at Beyond the Pitch, either way, or the Facebook page. We'll definitely get into these as they become more and more frequent. And again, big thank you, mate, for taking the time out to do this and become part of the Beyond the Pitch team. These will get better and become a lot of fun as we do these. So,
It's a pleasure, mate. It's
all
a
the best,
pleasure to be a
mate.
part of this.
Absolute pleasure to have you. Thanks, Ian. All the best. Cheers, folks.